Hey everybody, so I am back today just wanting to show a little bit of progress on my kit for the Kalis Typhon, the Horus Heresy character miniature. Essentially, I haven't gotten a whole lot done, but I have removed it all from the sprues and cleaned everything up, washed it, and worked on mold lines and just getting it mainly just assembled and ready for paint. And then I've primed it. I thought I'd just give it a show today. This is the first time I've done this before. I see lots of people that put their miniatures on things while they're painting them. I actually do probably what's considered to be a cardinal sin by most painters, and I like to paint stuff on the base. I mean, I usually do okay working underneath the base, like working underneath the body with a brush. I realize it's not always the most ideal, but I like to hold the actual base, and maybe it's just a dexterity thing because I just don't know any differently. But when I started using paint pots with the little blue tack, I found that it constantly never stuck, and I was worried more about stuff falling off and breaking. And so I've just got to the point where even with a bit of tension in my hand holding the base at a constant amount of tension, I just have grown accustomed to it, and so it doesn't bother me. But having said all of that, because of what I'll show today with the type of base this is, I've decided to take a page out of other folks' books and actually drill and put a peg on this guy and put it on a piece of cork. So I have a way to paint this without holding the model itself. Because this is resin and has a lot of fine details, I was really worried, not to mention this huge fragile scythe blade. I was really concerned that by holding the miniature and painting, that was a bad idea all around for me. I've never done that, and so I've always at least held a base that it was attached to. So this is Kalis Typhon. So I took there was a bit of a mini vote on the last video, and most people seemed to say that they thought the human head would be a better option, and to just paint him so he matches the squad, which I think that'll happen either way, and I think I'll go more towards that, matching the squad. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this guy, obviously, than I did any one of the individuals in the squad. He's got a lot more detail and things, and so yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll see how I'm definitely the overall base paint and layering of the coloration and the weathering is going to be the same. But yeah, I'll show a close-up of this guy's head. It does get blocked a bit by this, by the shield there, but the detail is quite amazing if you look at that. Even there, you can kind of see the level of detail is amazing. I'm going to have to spend a lot of time on working on the flesh tones on his face. Really impressive stuff. I mean, if all you want to do is paint and not even use this stuff to play, I mean, these are the models in my opinion. I mean, they're expensive, but gosh, this is just... I never stop loving this stuff. So, one thing I will say is there isn't a whole lot of posability, obviously, with this miniature. As a matter of fact, I mean, really, it's the hands come out of the shoulders, which kind of fit in here, and then this hand, you could move this up and down probably about 30 degrees, but really, this is what you've got, and so it's a nice pose. I don't mind that, and for what it lacks in posability, it makes up for in detail and awesomeness, in my opinion. So I don't mind. So that's Typhon, and so this base, I've never done one of these bases before. I'm gonna just zoom in a little bit here. And I remember when I was interested in these, I was even asking people like how this works, because I just was interested in buying it, but I just was kind of dumbfounded as to how the whole thing works. So this is there's a playable base you can use for gaming inside this display base. None of this is glued at this point, I've just primed it, but essentially this is your sort of display base on a bigger piece. My plan is to paint this up but leave it on the black plastic and just as is, and not actually paint the black plastic to match. I think it will look better as a display piece just on the black plastic, but then paint it up. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for the mini piece that's inside. So this actually just comes off. You could pretty feasibly magnetize this, but what people had told me like a year ago to 2 years ago when I was looking on this online is that for a display piece, it kind of lays there pretty nicely. It's a pretty good sized piece of resin. I mean, it's not overly heavy, but it lays in there just fine to just be in a cabinet. And so I'm probably not going to magnetize it. And so then when you pull this out, you've got your mini piece inside. Now, as I said, none of this is glued yet, but essentially what you've got is this piece here. It fits pretty snug. Like, I wouldn't say that it's hard to come out, but it actually doesn't just fall right out. It actually fits pretty snug in there. I think because the lip goes in here. But I'm going to take this piece, and then this pretty much well covers it, which is a really nice, awesome piece of rubble with it's like an air vent, you know, blade, like fan inside there. And this just covers the top. I'm going to leave the black plastic again. I'm going to paint this up and then just glue it right on there. Then this will go back in. And then this goes right here. Just do a quick turnaround on this, but as you can see, quite a bit of detail. You can see lots of piping, and it's almost like this is an industrial piece here. And then, you know, there's been some sort of explosion here, and there's rubble on the top. And then actually on the end here, it just sort of comes out as a ledge. So that should be interesting to paint up, for sure. So, all right, so that's my my Kalis Typhon. Just going to show you guys something else that I've been working on. I don't know if I want to do. I'm working on a large terrain piece that I could use for lots of games, but it's primarily for musket and tomahawks. And I was going to sort of not so much keep it secret, but just finish the project, and I'm doing a how-to on this particular terrain piece because I thought some people might be interested in seeing how to do one. But I kind of thought, since it's taking so much of my time, I might as well just give some updates along. And so I'll be right back. I'm just going to pan to this. So this is going to be a little bit difficult to keep in frame because this is a large piece of terrain that I'm doing. What this, and I don't have it really closed here, but what this essentially is going to be a forest canopy. Now, for those of you that have watched my musket and tomahawk battle reports, there's one or two of them where we actually featured a piece of canopy terrain. It was actually a similar piece to this, except that it was half in this particular video. Like, these are split in half. Essentially, these forest canopies, the idea is that you create a visual on the outside of a really dense piece of woods. Now, honestly, this is just the beginning of the project still. I've made some headway, and I'll just show where I'm at. But the idea is that you can create an illusion of dense woods on the table, a really impressive terrain piece. In this case, it's 2 foot by 2 foot. If this was a box, it would be cut out of a 2 foot by 2 foot piece, where the longest pieces here are 2 foot by 2 foot, and then it's shorter, you know, where there's curves to it and irregularities. Essentially, the reason I've cut this in half is so I can put it on the flat edges of boards and use it as half pieces as well, and really break up the way I use it. I'll take it off here. The stage that I'm currently at is I've actually finished the ground. I've hardly done anything on the actual canopy itself, but I have you know, textured and primed the ground, and I'm going to be doing two types of trees. I'm going to be doing like a birch tree, which I'm using just the regular unfinished wood dowels primed to then paint some birch tree sort of effects, and then I'm doing more of a I haven't really don't have like a particular species in mind, but it's going to be more of like a gnarly knotted old wood sort of tree where there's lots of texture, as you can see here. I'm actually quite happy with this effect, and I talk about it in the how-to that'll be coming up after I'm finished. But yeah, like the idea of this is that for those of you that have seen my forest terrain that I worked on about a year ago, although I'm quite happy with those pieces, this is much more playable and much more visually appealing, in my opinion, than those kind of pieces that I did. I mean, you can move your guys through here really easily and then just put the top back on. It's really great looking on the table. It's really functional playing. And so for games that are really using a woodland, dense wooded or frontier or fantasy, in the woods kind of format, these are, in my opinion, the way to go. And so yeah, like I might do one or two other updates before I finish, but then for sure I'll be doing a step-by-step how-to that I've been recording as I've been going along. So that's kind of what I've been working on. The other thing I haven't really put on the channel is I have actually gotten a little bit into X-Wing. It's been around, I guess, for 3 years, and I didn't really jump on it when it first came out. It's really big in my area. There are actually probably, just at one of our local stores, there's a league of about 170 people. That's actually part of it. Some number like that, I heard, but it's quite big, and some of them actually go to Worlds and stuff. I don't really want to get into it for the competitive piece, but I know some folks that play it just casually, and the thing I really like about it, I'm just pulling out some of the ones that I've got here, which are nothing special. But what I really sort of like about it is that it doesn't take away. It's a really cool game. The mechanics are really cool, and it doesn't take away from my painting time so much. I can actually just pull it out and play. And it's actually a game where even doesn't really require terrain for the most part. It's and so there's almost no investment of time to play the game. A lot of folks wouldn't like that, perhaps, just because they like the miniature games like I do as well, that require art and work put into it. But I do like Star Wars, and I really like the look of the ships, and the rule system I think is just fabulous. I just love it. And so I've had a couple fun games already. I love these ships. Like, I have a little bit of, as you can see probably on my shelf here, I've got 2 starter sets, the new one and then the old one. And so I do have Imperial ships. I do have the Darth Vader Advanced. And then these are all of my Rebel ships. And so I love these B-Wings. I just love the model, and they work pretty cool in game. And so I picked a couple of those up. I have a new X-Wing and then an old X-Wing. This has been a lot of fun. I really have enjoyed it so far. And so I see myself playing a bit of that for sure as well. And I love it because I can just pull it out and play, and then when I come home I can just paint my other stuff, and it doesn't take away. It's not another game that's taken away. It does take away that headspace thing to learn the game, but to be honest, it's pretty easy. I mean, I think there's a lot of room for strategy and interplay among ships, but if you just want to play casually like I do, it's really easy to pick up. It's not really intimidating, in my opinion. So, yeah, so that is what I've been up to. I'm going to be changing PCs, which I do all my video editing on, or at least doing some shuffling at home of that stuff. My wife has a business computer, because we do have a business in the family, and I'm inheriting the old computer that I use, that I've already done my editing and stuff on before, and then setting her up with a new one. And so there might be a little bit of an interruption in the next week or so, like meaning next week I might not put a video up. But hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully I get everything switched over and there's just no interruption at all. So, alright, well, I hope everybody's having a good week, and that is what's going on at Heresy Productions. Take care, everybody.